Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of The Pocket. I'm your host, Preston Lang, and alongside me is Parker Knoll.
What's up, everybody? Glad to have you all back. Today, we got some fun stuff coming up. First, we just have a bit of news. As many of you probably already know, Jalen Waddle was traded to the Broncos for the 30th overall pick and a third and a fourth. Pretty nuts. This is not something that I was expecting. It makes sense in my eyes for the Dolphins because they're clearly selling the team. Poor Malik Willis makes me a little bit sad for him. But yeah, I mean, Preston and I were talking about this a bit before, but this seems to be better for Jalen Waddle. Just looking at the situation that he had in Miami, again, Malik Willis is sort of an unknown as to how he's going to elevate fantasy receivers and pass catchers, but he wasn't getting a whole lot of targets to start, and that offense just looked miserable. It's a whole new offense in there. There's a ton of unknown. At least with the Broncos, we know Bo Nix can sustain a fantasy wide receiver relatively well, and if Jalen Waddle gets similar targets to what he did in Miami now in Denver, I think he's going to be more fantasy relevant.
Yeah, I think he becomes the wide receiver one in Denver. I mean, they paid wide receiver one price. He was never like a target. He was always at like 22% target shares around there. And I think with Bo Nix, the offense is just more secure. I know they have a new OC there who supposedly Sean Payton's letting him take over the play calling, but I think it'll just be better for Waddle because he was like all right with Mike McDaniel, and Mike McDaniel's leaving. Everyone says he's like an offensive genius. So I think the Dolphins are kind of a dying ship. I mean, I think it's like a 3-team race of who's actively trying to get the number one pick next year with the Dolphins, the Jets, and the Cardinals.
Yeah, I'm also hoping that the Dolphins decide to trade A-Chain. That would be pretty sweet. Send him somewhere nice.
Yeah.
Take care of my boy to the Packers, preferably. Um,
I heard teams called about HA and they said they weren't looking to move him at this point, but I don't know. You never know. Teams say what they want to say, so
yeah, he's young enough that they can eat a tank with him for 1 year and then try to get a guy like
it's just
March,
insane that like
Jeremiah Smith.
the Dolphins and the Jets are in the same division, and like those two games are probably going to decide the number one overall pick. Like who just wins those?
This is wild. And they play each other twice.
I think like the Bills and Patriots just have like four like 4 free wins.
Yep. That is crazy. No, I feel like those teams, like the Dolphins beats one of those two. Like the Bills have lost to the Dolphins a few times in recent years.
Yeah, but now the Dolphins are so much worse.
Dude,
They sold all their good
you're
Bradley
right.
Chubb, Minka, they're all gone. Waddle's gone. The O-line's a shell of what it was.
They'll still figure out a way.
Yeah. They got Malik Willis.
They do. He's amazing. He did a lot with that Packers.
Yeah, with his 4 starts.
I miss him already.
But moving on, we're doing Dynasty buys and sells. We're going to do the buys first per position, and then we're going to do all the sells per position later on in the podcast. So the first name up, we got Daniel Jones. He's my buy for quarterback. Daniel Jones was a top 7 fantasy quarterback before he like cracked his fibula and where he was still playing on it, but he wasn't fully healthy. Then obviously he tore his Achilles. But they just gave him a 2-year, $88 million deal. Shows commitment. I mean, they could have played him on the franchise tag, and they chose not to. The Colts are obviously trying to win. They traded 2 firsts for Sauce. So I like that. I want teams who are actively trying to get wins and competing, and Daniel Jones won't be like a nothing come your playoffs for fantasy. And he's got like rushing upside, and he's a really cheap option that you can get for if you have a struggling quarterback room, you can get him really cheap. So
Yeah, I really love him. I think especially with the injury, like these are injuries that people come back from. He'll be fine. I mean, maybe he doesn't start the season off, but that might even be to your benefit. You might be able to get him cheaper yet.
yeah,
Again,
he's a cheap buy that I think
100%.
you can start him with like a quarterback 2 starting price and get him for. I mean, he's ranked like ADP has him as like quarterback 25. It'll probably catch up now that he's signed a contract, but I don't see him going any higher than quarterback like 16 in ADP. I mean, I don't see him. I think anywhere from 16 to like 25 is where he's going to fall. And if you got a guy who in your league who's not really into him, I know he got put on the block in our league for the guy was asking for a 2027 first, any first, and I don't think he got any calls about that, which I wouldn't pay a 2027 first for Daniel Jones, but
No, I wouldn't either.
yeah, I got some hypothetical trades that I would do for Daniel Jones or with Daniel Jones. If you want to go buy him, I'd pay like Michael Wilson, Wandale, Michael Pittman straight up. I like those guys. If you want, you could down tier. So you could do like Jordan Addison or Christian Watson's and get Daniel Jones plus something else. I would do that. And then like a Dowdle or Algier for Jones, I'd do straight depending on the team. But you'd probably be able to get something on top of Jones with that. I mean, I think people are really desperate for running backs, and those guys both have a possibility of becoming a starter. They're obviously not like premier running backs, and they're short term options. But like I said, Jones is really cheap. I mean, if you're not a top 20 quarterback in value, it's like you can get those
Win
guys for
games.
like nothing. I think like the Michael Wilson, Wandale, Michael Pittman's like a super strong trade. Like I think no one's saying no to that. So those are just some options I think I would do.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that.
Oh, sorry, I
Yeah,
had one
yeah,
more.
go
I
ahead.
didn't I didn't see it. If you're trying to like just swap or downgrade quarterbacks, I would do Goff for Jones plus like any day of the week.
100%.
Like I think Goff has more dynasty value. Everyone looks at him like that. If you have Goff, I would totally downgrade from Goff and get Daniel Jones plus something. So
I
I would do
agree.
that.
My quarterback buy is Tyler Shuck. I loved watching him play this year. The Saints look like a whole new offense towards the end of the season once Shuck took over. We saw Olave elevate. Um, we saw Jawan Johnson have a few good games. It was fun to watch, and I really think he's going to continue to develop. I think he's what 26 as going into
Yeah,
his second year,
he's an old
which is
old
which isn't
sophomore.
great for a lot of positions, but for quarterback, he's a bit older, so he's got a bit more experience and a bit more mature. So we like to see that. And I think you're just taking a shot on a young guy who has already proven that he looks good. For me, if I can trade a future first for him, I mean, maybe not like a high future first, but like this year, like the 106 and later, I'm feeling pretty good about getting Tyler Shuck. We're talking super flex, of course, here. Any kind of future first.
Yeah, caveat, Daniel Jones is definitely a super flex. Don't go buy him if you're in a one quarterback
Correct.
league.
Yes, this is we're talking super flex dynasty. Um, and like for me, if you have a guy like Trevor Lawrence and you're able to get Shuck plus like a high second or even a low first, any kind of first, if somebody's offering that, I know Trevor Lawrence has got some inflated value right now with how he finished the season. If you can go trade Trevor Lawrence for Shuck plus a good chunk of change, I'm taking that all day long. I like Trevor Lawrence personally, but um, I think Tyler Shuck is just more fun. I think Tyler Shuck is more likely to go up, where Trevor Lawrence is more likely to go down.
Yeah, I agree. I think Tyler Shuck is fun. I do think people are into him though. Where
It really depends on the
it
manager.
yeah, I
It
would say
does.
it depends on your league. I think you're gonna find some managers who are like we have a league. The guy like loves Tyler Shuck. Like, he'd almost rather trade Jaden Dan not for the same value, but he'd like rather keep Tyler Shuck. Like he really believes in him. But I know there are a lot of leagues where it's just another guy for them. So I mean that's how it is always. But there's always like rookie hype. Like if they do good the rookie year. But I still think he is a good buy because I don't think he has. I think he has hype, but I don't think he has the hype where you can't go buy him.
Exactly.
Yeah. Moving on to our running back buys. My first running back buy is Chase Brown. I really like Chase Brown, and I think this is like a go quick and buy him before he gets a contract extension. Like once he gets that extension, he'll be so insulated. With Joe Burrow, he's like an absolute fantasy monster. I mean, he just saw. I mean, he'll be 25 with an extension on the Bengals offense. Like I love Chase Brown. He's my RB like 11 or something like that in my dynasty ranking. So I'm really high. That's higher than consensus. Um, but he rushed for over 1,000 on 4.4 a carry. He had 69 receptions this last year, which is elite for running backs. And then I think he could level up again. I think he could jump into that next tier of running backs in Dynasty. So I really like him. Trades I do for him, I do like Javante or Kyron, someone like that in that tier, and like a early second on top to make sure that that deal gets done to get him. I do Devontae Smith, Flowers, Watson, plus like a early second, late first to get him. I'd trade all those guys to get him. I think he's going to be a total beast. I'm very into Chase Brown, but it is like a go buy him while you can for me. So once he gets that extension, the price will shoot up, and then it'll probably just be a sucks you missed out on your opportunity.
Yeah, and I think Chase Brown's kind of undervalued right now, especially how he looked at the start of the season. He was a consistent beast towards that middle half to late, especially when Joe Burrow came back. If we see a healthy Bengals offense this year, I love Chase Brown. Like I think he's a great buy. I think that's a great point. My running back buy, I have Chuba Hubbard. This one's kind of interesting, but I feel like people were pretty into Chuba last year, and as far as I'm concerned, his situation is better this year. I mean, we saw what Rico did on the Panthers offense. The Panthers offense took a step forward and they love to run the ball. And Chuba no longer really has any competition. Now, if you're a believer in Jonathan Brooks, sure, but I don't really have a whole lot of hope that he's going to do much. If the Panthers end up taking a running back in the draft, maybe, but they're not going to get Jeremiah Love. So they're not going to really get a whole lot of anybody to compete with Chuba this year. I think you can get him for a super cheap price, and I think that's the biggest thing. Now, do I think Chuba is going to finish as a top 12 guy? I don't think there's a chance in the world. But a top 24 guy, like I could totally see it. I think he's going to get a heavy workload, and I think you could get him for cheap. If you could buy him for a second rounder, why not? If you could sell a guy like RJ Harvey and get Chuba plus for it. Like RJ Harvey has such a nice like name to him. I know Dobbins coming back hurts him, but he's a second year player, but he's old. What is he, 25 already?
Yeah.
And Chuba's 26, 27. Like they're a year or two apart, and Chuba's been in the league way longer. I feel like his rap is just worse. If you could do something like that, I would get Chuba all day.
Yeah, I think with Chuba, especially like what's happened with Jonathan Brooks, if he comes back, he'd be a total outlier if he ever became any fantasy relevant player. I mean, Trevor Etienne, Travis Etienne's brother, I mean, he's not doing anything. So they've already paid him. I think insulation is like really important in running backs. That's why I like Chase Brown if he gets an extension because they're committed to him. And I think like the commitment to the running back position is really important for Dynasty and long term options. Not long term, but like 2 year options at least, like in a 2 year window. And Chuba like has that, like he's getting paid, like he's got the big contract. Like that's why they're letting Rico go because they're not going to pay Rico when they've already paid Chuba.
Exactly.
So I think Chuba will get a lot of the touches. I could see them adding running back, but obviously we don't know until the draft in like a month.
Yeah, I think another thing with Rico was Rico had a few games where he was cooking last year, multiple 200-yard games, and they gave the reins back to Chuba to end the season when he came back healthy from his injury. I mean, if that doesn't tell you how they feel about him, I feel like what else would?
Well, Chuba had the job, got hurt, and then like Rico went nuclear.
Nuts,
like he went absolutely nuts. It's like, how can you pull Rico off the field after he just had like a 200-yard game?
And
it's
they
like,
did.
yeah,
For the
well,
mo- I mean, not
not
entirely,
immediately.
but they put Chuba back in the starting role once he got healthy, and then they got rid of Rico. They chose to keep Chuba and not pay Rico.
Yeah, and it's not like Rico was like super expensive. I mean, Rico went for like what, $6 million a year?
Yeah,
2 year, 12 mil.
So.
Yeah, so it's like, yeah, I like Chuba. I think he's undervalued as well. I agree with Parker. I think people value him as like around RB like 30 or maybe even a little bit lower. But I think paying like RB 30 price is great.
It's awesome.
Yeah. Moving on, my wide receiver buy is AJ Brown. I just think people are viewing him as like this dramatic, like aging receiver, and I don't really understand it. I get he's like a dramatic person, but I personally like my receivers to be a little dramatic. I want them to complain when they're not getting the ball because if they're not on the Packers, I don't care about that team winning. I just want my fantasy player to get the ball as much as possible. But people see that he's 20 and they're like, oh, it's like he's every time a receiver in Dynasty, I feel like gets over the age of 28, people like panic. Like, oh, if I don't sell him now, I'll never be able to sell him. It's like AJ Brown is still in his prime. 28 years old he's very much so in his prime. He'll be a wide receiver one if he plays 17 games. He will finish as a top 12 guy. I'm very confident in that. He also could get traded to a new situation with maybe with a higher passing volume offense, but we don't know that. But I'm excited. Like I think his value could go up with the trade, and I already think his value is low for wide receiver one. If he gets traded, you're not gonna be able to trade for him because people will be all excited about the hype.
Yeah.
Like right now, I feel like people are almost like bored with. It's like the Amon-Ra St. Brown thing, where it's like people get like bored of like Amon-Ra being top 3 every year. It's like AJ Brown's been doing it. He's been top 12 every year. Even this last year, he was top 12. I know it's like a down year for wide receivers, but personally, like if I had a Mecca Ibuka, I'd trade him and I'd get AJ Brown plus. I would love to do that. Anything I could get on top of that, I would love to do. If I'm like, especially if I'm a contender.
If you're not contending, that's tough. But
yeah, I mean, depends like how long your rebuild is. But he's not even a guy. I think you could be in a rebuild and still acquire AJ Brown and it not be like a bad move.
I think if you're competing, if you're rebuilding like a mini rebuild for a year, and then grabbing AJ Brown to compete the next year, I think there's plenty of reason to do that.
Yeah.
Especially if you're able to hedge it and get something like a second rounder, late first rounder that gives you a little bit of youth on top of it, so you're not fully committing to an older guy. It hedges your bet a bit. Like, yeah, I really like that.
Yeah, I personally think like another like good options. I would like love to upgrade from Flowers, Devontae Smith, Watson. I'd love to upgrade from all those guys to Brown. Doing that with a second maybe to try to get there. Another thing I would do is like Scattaboo for AJ Brown. I think people like the name Scattaboo, and people are a little bit worried about like the whole Jeremiah Love might go to the Giants thing. But even if he doesn't, I would still be very happy with Scattaboo for AJ Brown. I like AJ Brown that much. So, and people love Scat. Like he's like a love name. So I
Yeah.
think you could like almost trade on the name.
I think that
So
running back too, people need those running backs, and they're just going to hold value for that reason alone. You know, we commonly see wide receivers holding value in dynasty because the wide receiver position usually plays longer and produces longer.
right.
But I feel like running backs can get kind of scarce and people freak out about that. There's just less
Yeah.
solid running backs. So if you can use Scat as the name and like, oh, you need a running back or you're not going to compete this year,
Hmm.
you might be able to pull something
Yeah. Me and Parker have
like
talked
that.
about that off camera. We both agree that this time of year, like the running back position is a little unknown. So everyone's like, oh man, I only got two running backs on my roster. How am I going to compete with two running backs? So you can trade running backs and get great value at the wide receiver position. So that's why I like AJ Brown.
Yeah. My trade for wide receiver is Lad McConkey. I'm really interested in to see how the Chargers offense plays out with Mike McDaniel at the offensive coordinator position. We saw Justin Herbert put together a solid fantasy year last year. Um, I which is good obviously for his pass catchers, but I loved Lad McConkey his rookie year, and then last year when they brought back Keenan Allen, it felt to me like they dominate similar areas of the field, and it kind of felt like that's what happened. Is Keenan Allen kind of took some of those slot type targets away from Lad, and as Keenan Allen continues to age out of the offense, I think Lad's going to continue to get more. I think Mike McDaniel is going to understand that he needs to get this guy the ball in the passing game because he is their young stud. I mean, Quentin Johnston's a deep ball guy, sure, but he's not going to demand enough targets to take away from Lad. I feel like they work well together, similarly to Jameson Williams and Amon Ra, where you have one dominating the middle of the field and one over top. I feel like that's going to work well. I like betting on a good offense from Mike McDaniel. I think it'll be fun. He's young. If you can send a future first out to go get him or a mid to late 2026 first this year, I'd love that. We'll talk about him later, but if you can send Jameson Williams in like a second for Lad, like absolutely, like give me that all day. Um, I'm just again excited about the youth, excited about what he showed us his rookie year, and he had games last year where he showed it. But again, Keenan Allen, huge, and Lad, it was tough, and their offense was run heavy. I mean, that was a big thing. I know obviously they have Amari and Hampton, but I think they're just going to pass the ball more this year as well, which is going to get Lad more volume.
Yeah, I mean, I like Lad too. Like being attached to Justin Herbert is so important to me that I'm confident that Justin Herbert's going to be the quarterback for the Chargers and hopefully Lad for a long time, where I don't have to deal with like the whole Garrett Wilson thing where like we have no idea who, like we know Geno Smith and Justin Fields, or not Justin Fields anymore. Geno Smith and whoever are going to fight for a job in New York, and it's going to suck no matter who it is. So it's like I really like that he's attached to a good quarterback. Quentin Johnston's there, but he plays a role and he doesn't really interfere with Lad too much. So I like Lad. I do worry a little bit that like with this down year, but at the same time, I think it's a good bet to bet on Lad. I think he could elevate. So and I think you're paying like wide receiver like upper teens, like 20 range, like from 15 to 20. I think a lot of people have him. So I think that's a fair price for him. And I think if you believe in him, like go get him. So I like it. Moving on to a tight end. My tight end is Brock Bowers, and I know people are like, "Oh man, it's a big name. Like, how am I going to trade for Brock Bowers?" Here's my thing. I just want to remind people about the tight end dead zone. I know it's dynasty and it gets a little lost in dynasty, but it's still a thing and it happens every year. And this year feels like the biggest trap of them all because you got guys like Loveland and Warren whose situation just really improved. And after free agency, you're like, man, I could see it. I could see the path, and I do see the path for those guys. I do like those guys. I just don't want to fall for the trap where I'm paying for one of those guys where praying they get to the Bowers McBride tier versus just I'd rather just pay more for Bowers. Like I'd rather have the guy who can be the difference maker at tight end versus the guy who has the potential to be the difference maker at tight end. I'd rather pay for Loveland when he is in the Bowers and Trey McBride tier. Then like if he doesn't become that, it's a total loss for me in my eyes. So the only tight end I want to trade for is Bowers and McBride. Everyone else is like I don't really want them right now. So unless I'm getting like a good like getting good value or like a value win trading for another tight end, it isn't something I'm looking to do. Um, some hypothetical trades I do is like I'd take a guy like Loveland and I'd pair Loveland and like first for Bowers, and I think that gets done like very easily. I think people like love Loveland right now. He's like the hotness, and people like Bowers, but they're not. They don't know what Fernando Mendoza is yet, and it's just a lot. So I'd even do, excuse me, I'd even do like Tet and a second for Bowers, and people like really love Tet, so maybe that'd be hard to get done, but I think you could still get. I think you could make that happen. I would do Olave, Wilson, Ladd, and Buka plus a first for Bowers as well. I think all those guys are very good for Bowers, and I think I think trading for a tight end is hard in Dynasty. So I would just, if you're going to do it for me personally, I would just do Bowers and McBride, and then I'm checking out personally. I don't know if you have a different opinion. I know you traded for Warren, which I don't hate like obtaining Warren. I just think for me personally, I'm not trading for anyone except those two.
Yeah, I totally understand it. I think the tight end dead zone is a very important thing um, in redraft. In Dynasty, it's a little different for me um, because a guy like Tyler Warren or Colson Loveland, for instance, may not produce a whole lot more than the tight end 12 at the end of the year, which is what we see in the tight end dead zone, where you're paying a sixth round pick in redraft for a guy like Warren, whereas you could pay a 12th round for a guy like who even knows Hunter Henry, and then you could waiver wire pickup and you're going to have the same outcome for way cheaper. In fantasy or in dynasty rather, a guy like Warren or Loveland is going to hold more value for longer. Yeah, they're more unknown, so paying those like especially a Loveland inflated price right now is scary to pay. I would if I had Loveland, I'd personally be trying to move him because of that inflated
Well,
price.
we'll get to
Well,
that.
right. Um, so I agree with you there. I was able to acquire Warren for a price I didn't mind. A few things happened in the offseason where the rest of that trade kind of didn't turn out the way I wanted. It was the 201 this year, Nico for Warren and Ricky. We're in a tight end premium also, so tight ends do have a slightly higher value in our league. Um, and I wasn't in a position really to compete, and I wanted to move Nico. And I think that was like a fine trade in terms of value. But I do understand your point. If I can take Warren and package something and go get a guy like McBride or Bowers, like I'm gonna go look to do that, right? That's not a terrible thing. But I don't mind trading for a guy like Warren or Loveland if you can get a good price. I think Warren's easier to trade for right now than Loveland. I think
Yeah, for sure.
Loveland for me feels like a trap right now. It just feels like his price is overinflated. Yes, he can get to the McBride Bowers tier, but I think people are valuing him like he's going to. Like he has the potential, yeah, but he's not guaranteed.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying with the like Loveland and Warrens of the world, where you see the path where they could become Bowers and McBride, and I'm not saying they can't. I'm saying I'd rather just not even take the risk of with that and just pay for Bowers McBride, or when Loveland or Warren become into the Bowers McBride tier, I'd rather just pay the higher price and get the known commodity versus like, I mean, if like I don't know, maybe Daniel Jones tears his Achilles again, that would be terrible for this video because I told you guys to buy him, but I can't control injuries. I mean, then Tyler Warren's not one of those guys, and it would hurt a lot.
Right.
Same with Loveland, and like maybe Roma Dunes and Luther Burden are the truth, and they make there's like some factors there. I just rather them be the bona fide
Get him more
guys.
known.
Yeah, that's
Definitely.
my
Yeah.
take on it.
Your return on investment it's just safer.
Yeah,
In
I'm
that
I'm
sense.
playing I'm playing safety versus like risk at the tight end position
Yeah.
for me.
For sure. My tight end buy is kind of fun because the trades will make a little bit of sense here. But my tight end buy is Tucker Kraft. I
Mm.
think people are gonna forget how good he was. I think he was the tight end one when he got hurt or up there.
Yeah, one or two.
And he was up there in points per game as well. Even by the end of the season, he was.
I
I
think
don't
his
know
points
the.
per game were 3
That's what
behind.
I thought it was 4, but 3 sounds right.
Yeah, it was 3 or 4. I
Well, it's
think
obviously behind McBride because
it was behind McBride, and then I think it was Bowers, him, and Kittle were all within like 0.2 of each other.
Yeah. So, I mean, we all saw what he did with Love. He was breaking out in a huge way, and then he got hurt. I think that's going to help his price. I think people are going to kind of forget about that with the Fannons, the Warrens, the Lovelands of the world rising so heavily. I think Kraft's value is going to tank a bit. For me, if I can trade a guy like Loveland or Warren for Kraft plus like a late first or any first, decently high second, like for me, I don't mind the difference between Kraft and Loveland a lot. That if I can get that bonus of like a first, I think people, especially if you have Loveland, like somebody,
Oh, but if you have Loveland, people are doing that.
100%. I think if you can get that extra on top of it, I love it. Now, I don't love trading for Packers pass catchers, but and that mostly goes for receivers. We saw that Tucker Kraft dominated. And the only thing that really changes in the Packers situation is that you're getting Christian Watson back for the whole season, whereas Tucker Kraft is playing without him. But Christian Watson dominates that deep part of the field, whereas Tucker Kraft is like, again, more of a slot receiver, middle of the field, where Romeo Dobbs played, who was gone.
Yeah, he was, and Romeo Dobbs was like 18% of the target share or something like that, or 20%. So
Dude,
it's like
Tucker Kraft is
20%
going to be a
target
1 or 2 target in this offense
for sure. Yeah, I agree with that.
So I love Tucker Kraft, and I think he's a great price right now.
Yeah, like I said, he is in the quarterback dead zone, the tight end dead zone. Sorry, but I do say if you can get a value win, you should still do it because in Dynasty, like if I get Loveland for a price that I like, I'll still trade for Loveland. Like it's not like I can't go trade for those guys. It's just like a guy I'm telling you to buy. Kraft is a guy who he's definitely the tank even after like the Kenyon Sadiq uh, hype train. Like he's probably behind Sadiq for a lot of people. If Eli Stowers goes first round, if like the Chiefs take him, he's going to go ahead of Kraft again. And then you have looking at Kraft prices at like the tight end 9 or 10. That's great for Kraft.
He has the upside of the 3, like, to be honest.
Yeah, he could be. Yes.
Not that I'm saying he's going to elevate to McBride or Bowers, but he was playing at that level in points per game last year before he got hurt. So
yeah,
for the price, I think you're getting a huge upside there.
Yeah, I agree with you. If you can trade like those rookie tight ends for Kraft in a first, like I'm just especially a 2027 first, that'd be sick.
Yeah,
that'd be awesome. All right, moving on into our sells. So these are guys that we don't really like at their value right now. Not that we don't like them as a player, and if you have them, it's not like, oh, you got to sell these guys. But I think their value is just higher than it should be personally in the Dynasty community. That being said, Parker talked about him a little bit earlier when he was given hypothetical trades for him. But I have Trevor Lawrence as my sell. His value is as high as it's been since he came out of Clemson when he was the first overall pick in the NFL draft. He's never finished top 5 before until this year. The highest he's finished as it was 8, but that was in 2022, and he hasn't had a top 10 finish since that either. So it's like he finished at like quarterback 4 this year, and people like love him. He's never rushed for more than 5 touchdowns. This year he ran from 9 and had the most rushing yards of his career. I get that it's like a new system. Liam Cohen, like that guy, I love that guy. He's a beast. But I don't know if I'm going to expect Trevor Lawrence to rush for 9 touchdowns like consistently. That just seems like a lot to me for Trevor Lawrence, who's been pretty inconsistent year to year over his NFL career. I'm not saying he's like I said, I'm not saying he's like a must sell guy. I just think his value is like really high where people have him as like the quarterback like 10, or I've seen him as high as like quarterback like 9. And for me, that's like I would much rather go for, I value him as like quarterback like 13, 14. I would much rather go for a guy in his range and I will get a ton on top. Like personally, like I would like try to go get like Purdy or Love plus for Lawrence. Like I think that would happen. Like I think a lot of leagues, like you can get Love plus like a decent amount, Purdy plus probably a little bit less, but I think you could do that for Lawrence. And I would personally like those guys basically as much as Lawrence, and I'd be getting extra stuff on top. My running back buy was Chase Brown. I would trade Trevor Lawrence for Chase Brown straight up. I like Chase Brown a lot though. I would try to go for the 104. You might need to throw a little bit on top of Lawrence, but I think it's like close. In like Dynasty redrafts, they go pretty similar spots, the 104 and Trevor Lawrence. So I think you could get this done pretty easily. And then again, I'd try for guys like T, AJ Brown, BTJ, Rome, JMO. Try to get those guys plus a little bit for Trevor Lawrence. So those are like all different positions that I would, and draft capital that I would try to look to move on from Trevor Lawrence for.
Yeah, and
sorry, that was a lot of word rambling, but that's my bad.
Preston has been talking to me about Trevor Lawrence for a long time. Well, since he broke out especially about the 9 rushing touchdowns, he's not in on that happening again.
I am not. I bring that up every time we talk Trevor Lawrence. I just do not think that's happening.
Which is very reasonable. And I like this. I do think Trevor Lawrence is kind of similar in the Colson Loveland realm where his value is very inflated and he could very well regress. I don't see him finishing higher than he just did this last year. So to be able to capitalize on his value, I think you're going to sell him here at peak. The thing is, if Trevor Lawrence stays consistently doing this for the next 3 years, like, yeah, his value will go up a little bit, but I think it's a safer bet to sell him now and get a good chunk of value.
Yeah, even if he was doing this, I don't even know if he increases that much. Like the guys above him are like, Like, I don't even know who he's gonna pass. Like, he's not passing,
May, Daniels, Allen,
not passing
Burrow,
Lamar.
Hurts, Lamar,
Yeah, I mean Caleb Williams.
Caleb Williams.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's possible in a couple of years,
Those
but
guys would have to tank, and
yeah,
Trevor Lawrence would have
Patrick
to.
Mahomes
It's
even,
just so
like,
unlikely.
I see people take Trevor Lawrence over Patrick Mahomes. It's like, for me, that's like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, I would agree.
But for Jackson Dart, like, I'd rather have Jackson Dart too.
That's what I'm saying. Like it feels like
Like, he
if
feels
he
like
does it again, his value is not going to increase that much. You're basically selling him at max anyway.
yeah, I feel like he could go up like 2 to 3 spots max, and I feel like he could drop like,
10.
yeah, like, yeah, like 8 or, yeah, feels like that. So it's more of like a, just like where people like, it's just like a stock market move for me. It's just straight market move for me.
Yeah.
I don't even hate Trevor Lawrence. Like, I think he's a good player, good talent, but I like the offense. So I think there's a lot of selling points you can to sell them to people, and they're true points.
Yeah. That actually transitions well into my quarterback sell. I'm picking Drake May. Now, I am a fan of Drake May. I think he's going to be awesome for fantasy for a while, but I kind of agree on the fact that it is a market move. He is worth basically as much as a fantasy dynasty player, especially in Superflex, actually only in Superflex, can be. He's being drafted behind Josh Allen. He's being compared to Josh Allen, and I think Josh Allen, the comparison to Josh Allen is boosting some of that value as well. People are trying to find the next Josh Allen, and they think that's going to be Drake May. If you sold him now at his correct value, you sold him in 5 years at his correct value, you'd be getting about the same. And selling him now takes out all the risk of could he like I just this season for Drake May, it feels like we're gonna have to see him elevate to be worth what he's worth right now. I think people are overvaluing him for what he gave you this year for the potential, and I could see him not improving. We've seen this from young studs before at quarterback. Like we saw it from CJ Stroud. Now, was CJ Stroud's value quite as high as Drake May's was after his rookie year? No. But he was up there. People loved this guy, and he has done nothing since. It can happen, and I could see this happening for Drake May. Now, he has a high rushing upside. He had 450 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns. Like 4 touchdowns isn't like that significant. 450 rushing yards is awesome for a quarterback. That's a safe floor. But I think on top of that, the amount of value that you could get from Drake May is just not what a quarterback should be worth in Dynasty to me. I think the difference maker that Drake May is compared to what you could get for him, for example, I would trade a top 4 pick, or I would trade for a top 4 pick in 2026 plus 2 future firsts. Let's say you got the 104 and 2 future firsts. I would love that amount of value from Drake May. And I think you could get that done if somebody needed quarterback a ton. Or a guy like Genty or Hampton plus a first. Like, or even just like the adjacent. Like if you can go get Jamar Chase for Drake May, like, come on, please. Or something like
Yeah.
that. Bijan Gibbs. Like if you can trade Drake May for that adjacent, please. Like that's in my opinion, those are more valuable to me because you can not quite like tight end in a super flex, but if you have a solid startable quarterback, you can kind of scrap together that super flex quarterback. You can figure that out. I just the price of Drake May and the return you get for him doesn't feel the same for me. I
Yeah.
think if you traded Drake May, you could get more in return than what he's giving you on your team.
I will say, like, I agree with those points. I think it's hard to trade a guy like Drake May, though.
That is very true.
I think the quarterback's not a very like vital, like where you're able to like trade quarterbacks all the time. So I think it's a tough move to get done. Not saying you shouldn't try to trade him, but I think it's tough to find people willing to make the move.
I like 100% get that, and this isn't
Yeah, yeah.
to
I know what you're saying.
clarify.
I'm just saying for people out there who go try
Of
to make this
course,
done, like, it might not happen just because it's hard to move on. Like, it's hard for people to swallow the pill to buy.
correct. I was going to start with a disclaimer. This is not a sell Drake May at all costs or sell him for undervalue at all. Because holding Drake May, he should be a consistent fantasy asset. But if you can get him for or trade him for a proper price, I would do it.
Yeah.
That's where I'm coming from there. But yes, don't go sell him for like nothing because I told you to sell. Like, don't do that. He is worth what he's worth. Don't sell him for less. But if you can sell him for
Yeah,
that, do
he's still probably a first, like a 12 man. He's still probably a first round pick in dynasty redraft leagues. But right now
Yes.
he's going like 2. I've seen him go 1. I've seen him, the lowest he goes is 7. I mean, the lowest he will go is 7. So he's probably like, yeah,
Yeah.
like that's just where it goes.
And I was doing some mock fantasy, like mock drafts for a dynasty league we have coming up. I'm never picking Drake May.
Yeah,
He's just always going above where I would be comfortable taking him. And if if you have him on your dynasty team and you can trade him for that value, that I just do it.
Yeah, I like it. I have Drake May, but I've tried to trade him and I
See,
couldn't get it done.
that is the thing though, is Preston has told me that he's trying to trade Drake May, and I was like, I love that idea. That's what I would be doing if I had Drake May.
Hmm.
But
I got no
you just,
bites.
especially in our league, everybody values the quarterback at that value or even higher, but then nobody's buying. So everybody just holds on to their quarterbacks. They don't move much.
Yeah,
So it's tough.
the people who I thought like would want quarterbacks too, like address quarterback a different way, like in different trades. So it's like they didn't make the big splash that I could go get like a valuable asset. Because
Right.
I'm trading Drake May. I do want like a really valuable asset. I don't know if I just want to.
Exactly.
I don't want to trade Drake May for just picks. I want a player plus.
That would be preferred, yes, 100%.
Or I would love to do, like Parker said before, I'd love to do swaps with like for Jamar Chase, for Puka, for JSN, for Bijan Gibbs, like those guys. So that being said, moving on to my running back trade, a guy I just traded for. I think I traded for him at the right time, and I think he's my trade. He's my dynasty running back sell now. Is Byshell Tootin, probably the biggest riser from this past free agency. The Jaguars got rid of ETN, and the only running back they brought in was Chris Rodriguez, who I mean he's like I don't know $5 million a year contract. I think it's like six. I think it's like a 3 mil. It's like nothing. And no one's worried about Chris Rodriguez. Like no one expects Chris Rodriguez to come in and take the job. So Tootin's value is like pretty high because people look at him as like, wow, this sophomore running back who ran a 4.3 at the combine is now going to be the starter for a Liam Cohen, Trevor Lawrence offense, which those are true selling points. My thing with him is there's a lot of unknowns. He like could be really good, but he was also a 4th-round pick in the real NFL draft. So the team is not like financially committed to him from like a value standpoint. So he's not insulated at all. They could go do exactly what Cam Scadaboo happened to Cam Scadaboo and draft him. They could do. I mean, this happens. This happens like fairly consistently where teams like get a 4th-round running back, they're pretty good, and then they're like ready to compete, and they get swallowed by the team. Moved into the depth chart, not great. People are really high on him, and I would use him to go upgrade at a position. Some hypothetical trades I would do is I do Tootin in a second for like an ETN. I do Tootin and Addison for Chase Brown pretty easily for me. And I think there's like a chance you get that down. Again, I know it's another Chase Brown, but again, I'm high on Chase Brown. I think people are like so in, like they would trade you a future first for Tootin. So I would do all those for sure. Not saying you like are going to get that, but I talked to a lot of people and Tootin in the second seemed very fair. Everyone was like, yeah, that seems really fair for ETN. So that was like kind of like the baseline price. And I personally think I'd like do that. I don't know where Tootin's going to be in another year. Like even if he has a good year this year, I don't know where he'll be. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think this is kind of fun. Like Preston said, the window to trade for him at a really good price is passed.
Yeah.
I think the hype is gonna drive his price more than he's worth. I mean, again, the selling points are great. There could be a lot that comes from it, but like Preston said, those 4th-round running backs, those day 3 running backs, they just. I mean, when you think of Bucky Irving, he's a stud, and he's looking worse for wear right now. Like I think about Isaiah Pacheco, who looked like he was going to be the starting running back for the Chiefs, and he was going to be an insane value as a day 3 pick, and he's nothing now. So Byshal Tootin has proven less in the NFL than Isaiah Pacheco had when he got completely just washed away. So there's no guarantees, especially for a day 3 running back. So I guess we'll see how Byshal Tootin plays out. But if you can capitalize on that value now, I don't really think his value can increase a whole lot more than it is now. Or just the likelihood of him being worth more than he's worth now is just not there.
Yeah, I think he'd have to be really successful and be like worth it. And you're like taking out the risk. Like the only way he goes up in value is if he is like worth it, like on the Jag. Like he's the Jags guy.
Right. And there is a solid chance that Byshal Tootin gives you a decent fantasy year or a good fantasy year.
Yeah.
And they could pull somebody in next year anyway.
Yeah.
Because he's a 4th rounder and they're not very money committed to him.
Yeah.
You know?
I like Tootin. I just think you can't trade away guys no one likes. You need to trade away players that people like. You can't like trading guys like RJ Harvey is hard right now and his value's in the tank. Like it's hard. Like you got to trade for people like guys that people like and see the upside. You don't want to trade guys who, oh man, I don't like this guy. I just want to move off him. So that's why I would trade Tootin.
Right. And I actually really like that. Preston recently put that on in the doc, and I saw that. I was like, oh, that's he just traded for Tootin. Now he's selling him, but it makes a ton of sense, and I really like
Yeah.
that move. My running back sell is Josh Jacobs. Um, Obviously, he's aging. He's 28 now. Um, he looked awesome this year. I think he was the running back 4 when he got hurt. Didn't play a few games, kind of screwed you. Finished the season terrible. Put up a couple of just terrible weeks in
Yeah. I mean, he was
fantasy
playing through
TV.
injury, but it was rough.
Right. And these are all things that we expect him to recover from. They're not going to go away from him. He's been a beast for the Packers. I think for next year, he's going to be awesome. Like I think
He'll be a top 12 running back
that's
next year.
exactly
Projected. I mean, minus an injury, he will be.
His redraft value is up there for me.
Yeah.
And I will be drafting Josh Jacobs in redraft, but in Dynasty, I think people are going to see what he can do next year, what he did last year, and they're going to want him based on that name. And I think you can capitalize and get some good value. You give him 2-3 years. I mean, this is his last year on his contract with the Packers. Who knows what happens to him after that? So if you can sell him for like a 27 first, if you can get a guy like Javante Plus, I'm all in on that kind of value for Jacobs. That's just something that's going to hold up more over time. You know, Jacobs might be a 1 year and done, and if you can get that kind of value for him, I'm doing it.
Yeah. I've talked to you about this when we're not recording. For Dynasty, I have seen Jacobs fall a lot, but I think a contending team will still like go pay that price. Like that 2027 first, like a team that's competing would pay that. Like they're like, oh, I'm gonna be a late 2027 first anyway. I'm gonna go buy Josh Jacobs. And I think at that point, you like Josh Jacobs is gonna do very good for them. They're gonna be happy. And you're gonna be happy when you get the 2027 first in a loaded class. Or supposedly loaded class. We obviously don't know. But Jacobs is a guy, like you said, I'm just scared about his future, and that running back cliff could come at any time. I don't know if Jacobs is an outlier guy for me, like Derrick Henry and CMC are. And Barkley, I think, is an outlier guy too. I don't know if Jacobs is that outlier. And the age cliff for running backs is 27 to 28, and he's going into his 28-year-old season. So that scares me. I don't know if I want to be on the ship when the wheels fall off. And he's not on the Packers. Like if he signs with a bad team, I don't want to be on that ship.
100%. His value is just, it's going to slowly decrease over the next few years, even if he continues to. Like, think about what happened to Derrick Henry's value. He is still doing it, and his value is still trickling down and down.
And Derrick Henry is like a guy you
Derrick
like.
Henry is a freak, and I
Yeah.
think you could get him for a great price, especially if you're competing. But again, Josh Jacobs isn't going to do that. So you might as well capitalize on the value you can get for him now.
Derrick Henry's the guy I like worked for because people were probably telling you to sell Derrick Henry when he was 28 years old, and people did it, and totally worth it because he's been good till he's 32, right? So it's like he is the anomaly. I don't think Jacobs is the outlier.
100%.
Yeah. Moving on to my wide receiver sell, it's Luther Burden. Burden's value was already like very high for me, and I wasn't very in. With the departure of DJ Moore, his value just skyrocketed to a point where it's just preposterous to me. Like he's actually shown people nothing. I can see the upside, but he has no proven, like he has no production. So, I get why he's high because people can see it and they like the Bears offense. Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams, like I agree. Like there's a path where Luther Burden could totally be that guy, and this would like suck. But at the same time, he's going late 4th to a 5th round pick in Dynasty redrafts right now as the wide receiver 18 on Sleeper. That is just insane to me. There's people who are taking Luther Burden over Emeka Egbuka. To me, that just like doesn't correlate where I've seen Emeka be good. And Emeka is going to be the one on his team. It just doesn't make sense. His price is so that he's good is so baked in right now that even if he becomes like if Luther Burden did what Jameson Williams did this year, where he's like getting 1,000 yards and 7 touchdowns, you'd be super. I feel like you'd be really happy with Luther Burden if he did that.
Like 100%. Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? And
Yes.
you're paying like
way more than that.
You're paying way like no one's trading Luther Burden for JMO straight right now. It's like, and I'm not saying you should do that because you can get more, and I'm not saying that Luther Burden's going to be worse than JMO. Luther Burden easily could be better than JMO. My point is that his price is so good and it's so baked in right now that even if you are trading him right now and he becomes good, like you're still selling him for all, like it feels like all profit. It like I don't really see the downside at all. Like it's either like you're going to finesse or you're going to be even. Like I don't see how you're going to lose the trade. Like I don't. I don't know. So if you're a contender for me, he's like a must trade almost because his value is so high and you don't know if he's going to produce for you. So if I'm a contender, I would definitely move him. But this is still a straight market play. I actually do like Luther Burden, but I don't like him. I don't like him wide receiver 18. That just seems so high for me for a guy who's hasn't proved anything yet. Some hypothetical trades I do for him. Uh, I do the 105 straight up for him. I think you can get this done. I don't know. It'd be right around there, but I do the one. I would love the 105 instead of Burden. I would like take Burden in a second and go for like a George Pickens. You might be able to get Ted. I don't know, but like George Pickens, Olave, like those guys, I would do that. And then I would do the 109 Tuden personally, but I'm lower on Burton. You'd for sure get more than the 109 Tuden for Burton. That's just a play that I would like do, but not that I would get more than that. But that's just some things I do for Burton. He's just a total market play for me. He's just I don't understand why his value is so high. What like it feels like all potential instead of real value to me.
I also like I fully agree with you. I feel like he is being valued way closer to his ceiling than he should be. With I'm not a fan of acquiring players at a price where you're paying for so much unknown with Luther Burden. You're paying for basically all potential. He did it for a few games this year, if that. For me, especially with the Bears, and this is what I've been trying to be cautious with, is if you're not a one or a two option in your offense, you're not worth that Luther Burden price in the slightest. And Colson Loveland feels like a shoe in for a top two target in that offense to me, and maybe not. But you also have Rome, who showed tons of flashes of it early. So you're betting on who in that offense is going to break out, and at that price, like, yeah, I don't mind. You also don't know if all of those guys are going to break out. They've all shown flashes, and they all haven't done it consistently enough. Now I know that Luther Burden and Colson Loveland are rookies, so who knows what's going to happen. But Caleb Williams also throws like a 55% completion percentage. If that doesn't improve, that's tough. And you're just paying for a lot of risk. And I don't like again, like Preston said, if he does what he did, like if he does like a mediocre season, and he that would be a huge improvement from his last season, and you're happy with it, but you're paying for way more than that.
Yeah,
Just
like
feels like you're
and if you
paying.
have Luther Burden, you're super happy because you got him in the second round of your rookie drafts probably,
Oh, 100, a
or
great
a
value
throw in a deal. So
for
you
sure.
didn't pay anything for like Luther Burden, and he's gonna profit you a ton. So Luther Burden on your team, like you don't have to trade him. Like you can hold him. You if you have a bunch of assets and you're like, hey, Luther Burden could become a diamond. Like I don't need to trade him. Like you don't need to. I just think his value is so high right now that there's almost no downside.
Right.
So that's just where I'm at with him. And like you said, the Bears offense, like we don't know unknowns. Me personally, I'm all for Colson Loveland. I think he's going to be the one there, and then I personally think Rome will be the two. But that could easily change. I'm not sold on that, but that's just what I think will happen. So
I'm also in the boat. I'm drafting Rome over Luther in a redraft, or not a redraft, a dynasty
yeah,
startup.
that's where I'm at. And I do think though that we have to see improvement from Caleb. Like if Caleb isn't throwing for over 4,000 yards, which no Bears quarterback has ever done, which I think he will, but if he doesn't do that, all three of those guys will not be good, not be great. Sorry, they will be solid. They will not be the
They'll have
fantasy assets that
flashes.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll all be. Oh, here's 3 weeks of greatness from Burton. Here's 3 weeks of greatness from Loveland. Here's 3 weeks of greatness from Adunze. So we need the improvement from Caleb on that end.
It feels like a lot needs to improve or go right for these guys to become as fantasy relevant as their prices.
Yeah, and I think that the problem is like I want like a piece almost because I think one of them will be. And
Right.
I think another one will be like pretty good.
I think the great piece is Caleb Williams because he has such a great
Yeah,
offense. He has
and
Ben
infant.
Johnson. He has
Yeah,
the scheme. He has the
the great
talent around
the
him.
great O line. Yeah,
And I mean, he already did well enough for you in fantasy this year that if you paid the price and he did exactly what he did last year, you're at least not burned.
yeah.
And
I
the
like
path for
Caleb Williams a
improvement for
lot.
him feels like the most consistently obvious than his three receivers.
Yeah, I like Caleb Williams a lot
Yeah.
personally. Caleb Williams is like my quarterback like 7. He's very high for me. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So if you want a piece, go get him. My wide receiver trade away is Jameson Williams. Preston loves this guy, so I had to throw it in here. Um, we've done some debating on this in the past. I don't have his stats pulled up, but the biggest thing for me, well, I'll pull them up so I can really talk about it. But the biggest thing for me was Yeah, he started the year bad, and he ended up finishing with he had a great season.
He had
He
like
was
what, 1,117 yards and 7 touchdowns.
I can't
Sorry, I'm a little Jameson sexual, so
I
I think
can't
that's
see
the
the
I think that's exact. I think that's what it is. Don't worry.
we'll say that we'll
People can
trust.
fact check me in the comments,
Yeah,
but I think that's exact.
I'm seeing all of his weeklies, not his total. He had a solid fantasy season. He finished as a wide receiver one. Like, that's amazing. For the value especially. I just don't see him repeating that. And our biggest argument was how he started the season versus how he finished the season. I believe Sam Laporta got hurt. What week was that? 10 against Washington or 9 against Minnesota?
I don't remember.
I forget.
It's okay.
But we'll just give you the gist of it. So he started the season and he had 6.6 points, 19 points, 6 points, 6 points, 2 points, 19, 0, bye. And that was all with Sam Laporta. Now I know that they lost Ben Johnson
I think
and
it was
that
week 10 actually then.
I believe it was because then he in Minnesota in week 9 after his bye he had 17. So he had a few good weeks in there, but he burned you way more than he did well for you. Kind of seemed like a stereotypical Jameson Williams where he's going to have some big games and he's going to do bad. And I think the biggest thing there was his targets. He had one game with 7, one game with 8, one game with 6, and then it was sporadic and it was inconsistent. When Laporta gets hurt, he goes for 24 against Washington, 20 against Philly, 0 against New York, 27 against Green Bay, 17, 26, 12, 6, and 13. The consistency from before Laporta gets hurt to after Laporta gets hurt is unbelievable. Laporta's obviously coming back. We even see a guy like Isaac Tesla. Like now, is he really going to affect Jameson Williams? Probably not.
No.
But if you're adding in Sam Laporta and a guy who could possibly take a few red zone targets away, I don't know. I don't love the consistency of him, and I think he gave you his peak season. I think he's at his peak value. Now he's young and things can change. Who knows? But and again, I will give credit. Dan Campbell started taking over play calling, so that could have helped as well. But based on this last season, the numbers, I think, again, if you traded him for his current value and he did what he did again last season, you're not really all that mad about it. I just more likely see him going down than up. And I think you could trade him to the right person, especially. I think he is undervalued in some aspects, but to the right person with the stats that he put up last season, I think you could get a good price. Um, for me, if I can trade Jameson Williams plus like a mid to late second for Lad or any future first, I'm taking that all day.
Yeah, I'm a Jameson Williams owner. I would be doing that. I like JMO a lot. I do agree with you. I think is like when people you can sell on the fact that like oh you can show the top 10 finish, right? Like you can show people like hey he finished a top 10 guy. I don't think he's going to finish that. I think he's more of the mid wide receiver 2 level, but he does carry that inconsistency factor that Parker was talking about that does scare you from week to week. So paying like a wide receiver 2 price for a guy that you unless your team's really good and you might not want that what like that type of production. Like I really like him as like a flex player personally because
that type of player is awesome in a flex when they're going to win you a week. They might also lose you a week, but in your flex you can kind of survive that. Whereas if he's your one or your
he's
one
priced
as
as a 2.
He's priced as a 2, and if he's playing as your 2, he can burn you pretty good.
Yeah, I agree. JMO, I do like him, and I like the Drew Petzing hire. I think Drew Petzing is going to be good for them, and obviously, if Drew Petzing doesn't do good, Dan Campbell will say, "Give me that crap."
Yep,
Take over
right
again,
back.
and
Yep.
I think the Lions will be totally fine with just Dan Campbell and no OC. So, but I digress. I do think he is a trade away on the fact that this might have been his most productive season with the Laporta injury. I mean, I'm honestly praying he gets out of Detroit because Amon-Ra just doesn't miss games, so he doesn't even have the potential to be the wide
He's
receiver
never going to
one.
be the one in his QB2.
Yeah.
I did forget to mention that, but that's like, but I feel like that's just obvious.
Yeah,
Like, people just account that into his price. That he's going to be a 2.
But the problem, true. But the problem with him is like Amon-Ra, that guy, even if he is hurt, he's played. That guy is a dog.
I hate that he's a Lion because
he's like playing
player,
like you don't. Yeah, but hopefully he gets moved for my sake. But I still like him on the Lions.
If he gets moved, I mean,
Goff throws for like over 4,000 yards every year, so there's a lot of love to go around.
Very true.
But yeah,
he's going to start regressing soon anyway. So.
Goff, maybe. Going into my tight end sell, it's Colston Loveland. I love Loveland. That's how I want to start this off. I love him. I think he's my tight end 3 really easily. He's my bet on the Bears. He's my favorite of the rookie tight ends. However, I see him put into the Bowers McBride tier already, and he just does not belong there yet. Do I think he will get there? I personally do, but like I talked about with my Bowers thing, I don't want to trade for someone for the potential of jumping to that tier. I want someone in that tier. So even though I love him, I would not pay the price that comes with him. He it's just a market play. He's just a little overvalued to me. Yeah, I see why his value is what it is, but you can just like take risk out of it. Hypothetical trades I would do for him is Warren Fannin plus, which you'll get. I don't know what the plus will be, but people will pay Warren or Fannin plus something for Loveland in Dynasty right now. Parker's tight end by Kraft. I do Kraft with the first. And like he talked about before, you could get more than that. Kraft in a first, you'll get more than Kraft in a first for Loveland, but I would do it. And then again, guys like Pickens, Wilson, Olave, I'd personally do straight up, and people are going to pay that. And then some other things with like draft picks, because I think people sometimes don't know where to value their draft picks. I think you could take Loveland in like the 106, 107 and get the 101. I think Loveland's that value. I think the 106 would be way better than the 107, but I think Loveland in the 106 for the 101, I do. And I think people would do it.
You're not. I mean, I wouldn't personally do that because I
Yeah.
don't love Loveland. But his value feels like that.
No, I again would not do that. I would keep the 101, but I've
That's
seen.
why you're trading Loveland.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
But I do think that value isn't like far out there in terms of what people are thinking.
Yeah, in a couple of Discords I'm in, it was like I put that in there, and it was like a 50-50 split from like people in the community.
Love
So
to
I
see that.
I think people would do it.
Well, people would do it because
Yeah.
Discord is telling you.
Right. But exactly. And I'm like way on the 101 side there. I would much rather have Jeremiah Love.
Well, he's gonna be a stud. He's an exciting player to get.
Yeah. But so that being said, I like Loveland. It's just a market play. His price is just he's priced almost with the Bowers McBride tier, and he's not there.
Right. My tight end my tight end sell is Dallas Goedert. Now this one's, he's Dallas Goedert, whatever. But he definitely put up his peak season last year.
What 11 touchdowns?
I think it was ridiculous. I was gonna pull it up because, of course, I didn't write it down. But I had him in Dynasty as like a super late round pick, and he did me a lot of service. He had what? It's not showing me 4.
I'm pretty sure it's 11 touchdowns.
Yes, 11 touchdowns. He only had 700 yards, so it's
I
not
don't
like.
even think that. I think he had like 500.
Was it only 500?
Yeah.
So obviously, like not
Maybe
a ton of
600.
yards. It was somewhere in there.
I think it was 5 to 6.
Of the top 10 or 12 tight ends we looked at, he was lowest or second lowest. Like he doesn't have the yards to sustain, and he had the touchdowns. But people are gonna buy on that. With him being an older vet kind of guy who's gonna get red zone touches, I do think that the Eagles are gonna pass more this year, so that's gonna be a little bit of a boost to Dallas, and you can use that to sell them a bit. But for me, like if you can get any second round pick and just get younger off of him, totally worth it. And for me, if you can get an older vet like a Terry, a Dobbins, and Adams straight up, I mean Dobbins isn't necessarily a vet, but some of those guys that people are a little scared to have, if you can get any of those guys, like they feel similar in terms of risk in like the fantasy community. Like, oh, Terry's got a year left, Dallas Goedert's old, like, but Terry's going to do way more for your team than Dallas Goedert. And if somebody needs a tight end that bad, you might be able to move him for that. Maybe you add a little extra. I'm fine at Dallas Goedert and extra for Terry. Like, just like they feel like a similar vibe, but these other guys are going to be way more valuable for you.
Yeah, like I said, I mean Goddard. I'm not buying Goddard, but selling him, I get what Parker's saying. Where Goddard definitely just had his best season he's going to have for the rest of his career. So selling Goddard now before just like it's just selling him instead of going down with the ship, basically.
Right. He also just went back to the Eagles where he had a great season, which I think is huge. If he went to like a weird landing spot, I mean, okay, he's irrelevant, but he had a good enough season, and people are gonna see, oh, he had 11
You
touchdowns.
can just be like, hey, they're gonna keep doing that shovel pass.
you can get a significant enough thing for Dallas Goedert with him going back to the Eagles that I think it's worth mentioning.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I see what you're saying. It's again that's like just selling him, trying to sell at peak.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you guys for listening. We really appreciate it. We hope you guys learned a lot on this episode, and I know it's just our personal opinion on who we like and who we don't. Well, not even that who we like and who we don't like, but just where we believe the market is. But I hope you guys can take this and use in your dynasty leagues to benefit your team.
Yeah, and again, we're gonna keep pushing these out weekly. We're having a good time talking a lot about dynasty right now. Obviously, that's that time of year. Come the fantasy or the NFL draft, excuse me, and we get through that, we'll start getting into redraft more. But We all started a Dynasty League this year, and we're all really enjoying it. I know Preston's been in them before, but so we're having a good time talking about them, and we hope you enjoy listening to them. So thanks for listening.